Yo, what's up, everybody? The Phillies being disrespected by MLB.com. Pete Rose, that whole thing, that was a disaster. And Jalen Hurts, I got an interesting Jalen Hurts question from a supporter of the show that we are going to dive into today here on Trending in the AM. So don't go anywhere. We'll be live and ready to roll in 30 seconds.
Gets around in front. And Philadelphia has it.
Yo, what's up, everybody? I'm back. One day off. That's it. Just one day. Dylan ruined everything. Playing the wrong intro song yesterday.
Per usual.
That's okay. Yeah, per usual. He always does something wrong. But I'm back, baby. And we got lots to dive into today on Trending the AM. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, retweet, share, whatever platform you're watching on. But if you're watching on YouTube, and that is the best place to watch. If you watch on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button. Best place to get involved with the show is on the DSM Media YouTube page. So make sure you guys all head over to there and follow us on that page. Dylan, good morning. Thank you for hosting for me, filling in for me yesterday. I greatly appreciate it. You and Jason did a great job. But we got more to dive into today. We got to keep that Phillies conversation going. You had some great overreaction thoughts on the Phillies yesterday. And, of course, yesterday's Major League Baseball.com's power rankings came out. So we're going to get into that because I think it's kind of interesting how they ranked the Phillies there.
Yep.
Obviously, I want to get into Pete Rose. You guys didn't talk about it yesterday. And I really want to talk about the Pete Rose reception / way he handled himself in Philly this past weekend. Want to get into that, and then our man George, who's a big supporter of the show, asked me a question this past weekend, and I want to bring it up today and discuss it about Jalen Hurts, the Eagles, the offensive line, and I already know my answer, so we're going to get into that later in the show. All right, but Dylan, yesterday your first overreaction on the show was Overreaction Monday. The Phillies will overtake the Braves in the wild card in the division. And that's a bold statement because the Braves are a really good team. But it goes to that the Phillies are playing great.
Yep.
10 out of their last 11 of their last 13. They are 11-2 in their last 13 games. The MLB.com's power rankings have them ranked. Not that the picture comes up. I just brought the picture up. I'm going to put it up on the screen real quick for everybody to see. They are not in the top 10. I did some digging. And I look, they're ranked 13th. Not only are the Mariners, the Blue Jays, the Cardinals, the Brewers, the Padres, who we have a better winning percentage than, all ranked ahead of us. They even got the Rays, and hold on, let me pull up the other side. They got the Rays and the Twins even ranked ahead of the Phillies. Us as Phillies fans, are we overreacting? Is this team not really that good? Is baseball and Major League Baseball.com, a major network? Are they just trying to troll Philly fans because they know it works? Or is this just total bullshit right here? What are your thoughts on this ranking list here?
I want to go with the latter, and I'm going to say it's just total BS.
Okay.
I want to know how they came up with this list, Phil. What's the parameters for this list? So if you look at 9 and 10, and obviously just isn't the top 10 best records in baseball, but the Phillies have a better record than 9 and 10. They had the same record as 7 and 8, right? Up until the series with the Yankees, the Cardinals were slipping. The Brewers, who come in at number 10 since trading Josh Hader, are an absolute dumpster fire. I believe they lost 4 straight. They just got swept by the Reds, I think. The Mariners are 59 and 51. I'm just confused at how it works. Like the Padres, right? Are you just using that they traded for Juan Soto because they just lost again last night, and I believe they're now 1-4 or 1-5 since the trade. So power rankings, they're supposed to be updated, kind of.
Well, so the Padres did get dropped. So I'm looking at it right now. And it says where they were last week. The Padres were 4 last week, so they did drop them to 5.
You drop one spot, they're right. 1 and 5.
The thing that doesn't make sense, what was the Phillies' record last week? Okay, they went 5-1. They went 5-1.
They probably lost to the Braves. That's it.
And guess what? They stayed. They were 13th last week. How do you go 5-1 and not
And you
move
don't
in the
move.
rankings?
Right. And how are the Brewers still in the top 10? That's not what I'm understanding. Where were the Brewers last week? Do you have that?
Hold on. The Brewers last week were 10. They stayed the same.
So they stayed the same.
The Braves stayed the same. The Cardinals went from 11-7. The Blue Jays 8-7. 9-8 for the Mariners. Brewers stayed the same. Twins dropped out of the top 10. Rays stayed the same. It makes no sense to me.
No, and there's like a few, like, it's just the number 10 one is getting me because they're struggling right now, dude. I'm pretty sure they just got swept by the Reds. Okay. Yeah. They haven't won, or they won one game since trading maybe the best closer in baseball. Why ever they would do that at the deadline when they're trying to win their division. They're no longer in the lead for their division. They've lost that, right? And they're still ahead of what you could possibly call, Phil, the hottest, if not the hottest team in baseball. The Phillies have, hold on, the stat I saw last night, and I saved it specifically for you in the show this morning, Phil.
Okay.
The Phillies have the second best record over, not just like 2 weeks, over the last 58 games. They have the second best record. So what are we doing here?
Yeah.
How are they not climbing?
You can't just say that the Phillies just beat the Nationals this past week and that's it. Because they have the best since June 1st. They are the third best team in baseball.
Right. And like,
I
would assume
they took 3 out of 4 against the Braves. No, 3 out of 5. They won 2-1 and 1-1 in series. So they're beating good teams and bad teams.
Right.
It's not just the Nationals.
I would assume you said the Cardinals went from 11-7. They just swept the Yankees. That's a hell of a series win. That's a hell of a sweep. I get that. But they move up 4 spots probably only because they just swept the Yankees. And the Phillies, so you're talking about recency, wins, blah, blah, blah. The Phillies are the same, or in the same boat, second best record over the last 58 games, and they haven't moved.
And yes, okay, George saying power rankings are pointless. There's no science. But it shows a disrespect for your squad. You know, we're passionate about the Phillies just as much as the Eagles on this show. There's got to be some respect behind a team. And, or even power rankings are done, whether it's I don't know how MLB does theirs.com, but I know ESPN does their power rankings. They have a group of 4 or 5 guys, reporters, that get together. They all put their rankings down, then they average it out, and that's how they figure it out. Like I say 1, you say 2, right? You know, and you figure out the common denominator amongst that. That just shows an utter amount of disrespect for the squad.
Right. It would show where analysts and people who review the sport view
people
the
that
Phillies
are covering
right
baseball
now
on a daily basis.
Right.
And it's the same thing with football power rankings. I don't know where the Eagles are at this point in the preseason power rankings, but it's 4, 5, 6 guys, and you get a very general, like Tim McManus might be on the board. You know, somebody from Sunday NFL Countdown might be on. People that cover it detailed every single day are putting these lists together. And it just shows an utter lack of disrespect. And it's kind of frustrating because, look, I was all out. Like the Phillies, once you think they're out, they pull you back in. You know what I mean? And I was trying to be patient with getting pulled back in. But between the trade deadline and how they played this weekend, what did I say last time you were on the show? What did I want them to do against the Nationals?
Sweet.
I said I want
3 or 4.
I said I wanted a foot on throat and just make a statement. And that is exactly what they did. They went out and outside of one game, the rain-shortened game, they dominated that series, which is what they had to do. It wasn't like they won a bunch of 2-1, extra inning, had to come from behind, miraculous win. They stopped the Nationals, which is what they needed to do.
No, for sure. And we talked about this yesterday with Jason and the way they handled that series, 7 runs, 11 runs. Phil, I made a joke to you about in game 1 versus the Nationals. Oh, it'd be nice if we could go out and do what the Braves did to us in game 1 in Atlanta. That's what they did on Sunday. 13-1, right? So the way they came out with that juice you were looking for. And again, you can't just take the National Series. You can't just take the Pirates sweep. You have to take what they, like you said, 10 of 11, 11-2 in their last 13, second best record over the last 58 games, third best record in the last 2+ months. You can't just take that away from a team, and they're essentially doing that.
And I know we take the clickbait all the time. But for
I mean,
some
it's just
reason,
fun to
power
talk about.
rankings to me
Yeah. I'm not
are
like genuinely.
they're not meant to be total clickbait. It's not like Chris Sims' quarterback rankings where
Putting
he's
Jalen
doing
Hurts
it.
38.
This is multiple people gathering together and putting it together.
Right.
It's meant to be
It's
a
supposed to
little
be
bit more
helpful.
helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
I'm
that's
not
where
like,
my disrespect comes from it.
yeah, I'm not genuinely like upset about it. Like I really don't care that they have him at 13. I just want to talk about the logic behind it. And like I said, I'm staring at the Milwaukee Brewers at 10, who can't stop a nosebleed right now against a bad team. And the Phillies are on a roll, and the Phillies stay the same, and the Brewers don't get knocked out of the top 10. That part just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't. No, not at all. And I don't know much about the Rays and the Twins and how they're playing at this moment, but I know the Phillies are better than those teams at this point, at least consistency-wise. So
can I go back to that comment for a second?
Which one? No one likes
the bottom one. Yeah.
Gotcha.
George, I think George will appreciate this because of what he's talking about. It's a catchy song, if you want to call it a song, right? Catchy little tune. I hate it as a Philly fan because not me personally, but I've spoken this on a show before. Yeah, we do care, guys. We can't say no one likes us. We don't care. And every single thing this fan base gets upset at. Like, I know we're talking about power rankings. I don't think you and I are genuinely like, no one likes us. We're like, well, what are they doing? No, we're just talking about it. It's something to talk about, right? But like, people will genuinely be upset by that. People will genuinely be upset where they put the Eagles and the disrespect they'll have for the Eagles. I hate that no one likes us. We don't care because everybody in the city freaking cares.
2017 is an excellent example. Yeah. No one thought we could do it. No one thought we could do it even with Carson at the start of the season, let alone, 100%. Once Carson went down. Absolutely. We're going to get into the quarterbacks in the Eagles shortly. So, another week here upon us. We start with 3 against the Marlins, and then we got the tough Mets series after that. What do the Phillies need to do? Because the Marlins are a better team than the Nationals. They're still not a great team, but they're better than the Nationals. We are going to be facing Sandy Alcantara again in this series. And then you've got a Mets series where you're going up against DeGrom and Scherzer. Where do the Phillies got to finish at the end of this week? Not just for the respect in the league, but for people like you that are saying that they're going to overtake the Braves. They need to come out again and continue against the lesser teams like the Marlins. You got to think that the Phillies are going to probably only win 1 out of 3 against the Mets. 1 and 2 would be an okay, acceptable result. Does that mean they have to continue? Were they on a 5-game winning streak right now? Do they have to come out and win all 3 games against the Marlins?
Nah, I think, at some point that hot streak starts to cool down a tiny bit. And this is a very funky week because although we should win the series versus the Marlins, we can all hope for a sweep. Tomorrow night scares the hell out of me with Alcantara versus Syndergaard on the mound. So that has loss written all over it just on paper. I think a 500 week is acceptable. I don't want a losing record, so you can't get swept by the Mets, but I'll take a series win versus the Marlins, go 1 out of 3 versus the Mets. You're 3-3 at the end of the week. If somehow you can come 4-2 is a complete and utter win, no matter how you get there, no matter how. So if you sweep the Marlins and go 1-2 against the Mets, if you somehow can possibly win both series 2-1, 4-2 is an utter win for the Phillies, but 3-3 is fine. Now you get to that 2-4 record, you had a struggle this week, and you might be dropping back down closer towards that 3 ranking than you are heading towards the Braves.
So if they go 3-3 this week, say they go 2-1 and 1-2, which is a very easily, foreseeable, result this week. Do you think that gives Major League Baseball.com or power rankings or national people, they're not slowing down. This was a really tough schedule. They faced Alcantara, DeGrom, and Scherzer this week amongst our guys. I mean, today's pitcher that they're going up against, I was looking at his numbers.
He's like
Garrett.
2-5.
Yeah, but he's got a 3.88 ERA. He's actually he had a really, really rough when he got called up in, I think it was late May, early June. He struggled at first. So his ERA being where it is, is actually pretty impressive because, he struggled at first in the bigs. It's a tough list of pitchers that they're going up against.
So you think it'll earn some respect? I'm going to defer.
If they do 3-3.
Not defer. I'm going to go the opposite side here. I'll play devil's advocate for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think even if they go 3-3, but the Mets series is 1-2, they're going to take it and run with the idea that they couldn't win a series versus an actual contender in the NL, which isn't true because I can read off the number of contenders in the National League they've already won the season series over. But in terms of recent play, they're 500 against the Braves recently. They're beating up on the Nationals and Pirates, but they're going to lose to the Mets. So they're going to take that and say, "We'll see. They can't. They're not. They're right here. They're middle of the pack. They're a good team, but they're not a contender." Blah blah blah. It'll be whatever, but.
Here's the thing. I'm not saying they're going to go 3-3. I think there's a chance they go 4-2 in this stretch. They're playing great baseball. They're red hot.
100%.
You got the Marlins series. Really, the only game that concerns you in the Marlins series is the Alcantara game. But you got to think about it. The way the rotation has been lined up now, you get Suarez, Nola, and Wheeler, your 3 best pitchers going in that Mets series.
Sure.
So, I mean, if Nola and Wheeler want to be this top tier 1-2 punch in baseball, they got to come out and dominate the Mets. And the Mets 100%. Haven't been red hot anymore. The Mets have, I don't want to say they've showed kinks in the armor because they're still, they're still 71-39 on the season, but they're not. Actually, they have won quite a. They did just take care of the Braves there. Sorry. Again, my screen says it's back. Yeah.
And Spencer Strider had some idiotic comments, funny comments, but idiotic comments after you get swept. Like, dude, you get swept by a division rival, just kind of slide off.
The kinks in the armor are definitely much more on the Braves side of things than the Mets. But actually, they're playing better than I thought. I thought they were playing a little worse than they were. So
for some reason, I thought I agree. Like I agree before the Braves series, I thought they dropped.
They won since the All-Star break. They lost the first 2 games outside the All-Star break.
Oh, that's because they had the Nationals. That's right.
And then they played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're 13-2 in their last 15. We're 11-2 in our last 13. So it's 2 red hot teams going right up against each other. So look, I just love the fact that you have Suarez, Nola, and Wheeler lined up to go in that series. So there's no excuses. It's not like Bradley Falter's going in that series and you've got to for sure just write this one off.
No, and I think something else. I think something we're looking ahead to the Mets series, and I get that because it's the one that grabs your eye. And I know we can't expect a sweep. But we can't discount the fact that they very easily could come out here and do to Miami what they did the series before the All-Star break and just roll them as well. And even if they go 1-2 in the Mets series, they're still 4-2 on the week because they swept a bad team. Like, that's something that this Phillies team has been able to do. And again, Phil, I'll keep repeating myself week after week here. It's why it just feels a little different. I know we can go back to the Cubs series. I really believe that was an anomaly. They have been able to take care of bad teams, of lesser competition, not just win series. They're sweeping lesser competition. They're blowing out lesser competition. Guess what they haven't been able to do in August and September? Well, I know we're not in September yet, but in August and September over the last 2 seasons, sweep these kinds of series. I will not be surprised if they win 3 more heading into the Mets series. And guess what? I don't care if you're going against DeGrom, Scherzer, whoever they want to throw. If you head into that series on an 8-game winning streak, don't tell me they're not going to go in there and take 2 or 3 versus the Mets because they very easily could.
Yeah, I agree. So you got Wheeler on the mound tonight. I was just looking. We realized how many games we play against the Marlins every year. I mean, nonstop. Wheeler has only pitched against the Marlins once, and it was back in the second series, his second start of the year. So we really don't have any recent data on him against the Marlins. Has there been a guy that's got a sub 2.7 ERA? It's got 10-5 record, a 101 WHIP. Has there been a more disappointing like it feels like Zach Wheeler isn't the old dominant Zach Wheeler, but yet when you look at his numbers, the guy's pitching phenomenally. What's the deal with Zach Wheeler? Why do we feel like, or why do I feel like Aaron Nola to me is closer to a Cy Young candidate this year than Zach Wheeler. But yet Zach Wheeler's got better numbers, across the board, except for I think Nola's is below 1. But
because I think it's just become expected at this point for him to be great, for him to be dominant.
So, unless he pitches below a 2 ERA, it's just, that's what he's supposed to do.
Well, I also think that, you look at the record. I believe he's 8-5 this year, correct? And you look at that. He's 10-5 now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot better. But still, what's the name? But still, even if that record was, the Phillies have lacked run support for him and Nola this season.
Yeah.
And let's say Wheeler's number, let's say he was 12-3 instead of 10-5 with that low 2 ERA. I think you're looking towards a Cy Young. The fact that the record's 10-5, Nola's got like a 500 record. I think he's like 8-8 or something like that. Again, they've lacked run support. If you're talking about the difference between the two, why might we feel one way versus the other? Nola's stuff when he's on maybe just seems like those games seem a little bit more dominant, possibly. Like when he's on and he's K and 12.
I'm looking at his stats, like season stats, like compared to he's got the exact same whip as last year. He's striking out just as many. He's actually got lower amounts of walks per.
Nola or Wheeler.
Like Wheeler's actually pitching.
Well, like, I think it's become I think it's become expected almost at this point.
It's kind of insane that I have that feeling about him. So I won't be on the pregame show tonight with you. Are you and George doing the pregame tonight?
Yeah.
Right here on DSM Media. Again, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button here on YouTube. Turn the notifications on so you don't miss any of the live content on DSM Media. I think the Phillies obviously are going to win tonight. There's literally no way Zach Wheeler's going to come out tonight and not pitch a dominant game. And just, the Marlins, they are what they are. They're not a good baseball team. They're not as bad as the Nationals, but, they have one chance this week of winning against the Phillies, and that's the game Alcantara pitches. So Zach Wheeler comes out again, another dominant performance tonight, and we get the W. We get that 6th win in a row. Instead of saying we're 11-2 in the last 13, tomorrow I'll be saying they're 12-2 in their last 14. There's literally no doubt in my mind that the Phillies get the win tonight.
So I agree, like they're going to win tonight, but I just remembered I was trying to think of what day of the week it was, and I went back and it is today. Today is 1 week ago when they got smoked by the Braves 13-1. Right. And I remember Kruk and McCarthy, or Ruben Amaro and McCarthy, talking about what's their deal on Tuesdays, and they said their record. They're horrific on Tuesdays.
Really? I did not catch that.
Yeah, and last week I'm pretty sure they had an off day on a Monday and then came out versus the Braves on a Tuesday. They had an off day yesterday. They have a game today against the Marlins. They'll win today. I don't think, against a great team, maybe it's just something off on a Tuesday. They're not going to lose with the pitching advantage at home against the Marlins. They're red hot, but it is funny. Can they get that?
That's kind of interesting. That's some detailed knowledge right there. Yeah. What their record is this year on a Tuesday.
On Tuesdays, I know.
Yeah.
I'd have to go
back. There's got to be a way you can do some detailed research on.
Oh yeah. Right. I'll try to look it up after the show.
All right. So I want to touch on another Phillies thing. You guys didn't get into it yesterday, and I was really mad that I wasn't on the show yesterday because I wanted to address the Pete Rose situation this weekend in Philly. Look, Pete Rose, whether he should be in the Hall of Fame or not, that is part of the conversation always. First time back at Citizen Bank Park, and I don't know how long it's been. Maybe since he was suspended in the late 80s, he might not have been in Philly. He comes out to be part of the 80s celebration, the 80s team, stuff and all. And he got a splatter of booze mixed in with a standing ovation. Look, Pete Rose, let's just use the term that's on the top of my head. He's a scumbag.
Mm-hmm. Probably a good term.
Besides the gambling stuff, there's the statutory rape and the scumbag aspect of him. And the Phillies, did the Phillies bring Rose back because of the money? Like, did they do it because they don't need to, bring Pete Rose back to sell out alumni weekend? There's never a problem. I've been to multiple alumni games in the past. They don't have any problems with it. Why would they bring him back knowing who he is and the way he's going to act?
I could be wrong here, but isn't alumni, that's soon? That's not yet. I thought they were celebrating him specifically.
No. It was the 80s celebration.
Was it?
And
I thought that was.
They put Ron Reed on the Wall of Fame. They inducted him into the
Okay.
Wall of Fame from the '80s team.
Okay.
So that was the weekend, and I've been. They do alumni weekend better than anything I've ever seen. They didn't need to bring Pete Rose back. And for those that didn't see it, he got asked a question by Alex Coffey, who she writes for the Inquirer now. She's formerly from the Athletic. She asked him, and I asked Pete Rose what he would say to the people who say his presence sends a negative message to women, and it's due to him having statutory rape. And his response was, where is it? No, I'm not here to talk about that. Sorry about that, babe. It was 55 years ago. First off, there's so much. It's one line, and there's so much to unpack from one line. And other male reporters followed that question up with more. And he told one reporter, dude, you weren't even born when that happened. So you can't talk about something that you weren't born for.
Really? Yeah. So let's talk about the timeline here, Phil. Let's talk about how long ago that was, right, Peter? Because that was so long ago. You shouldn't. First of all, how he was so unprepared.
Yes.
For that question. It just shows how out of touch he is, or like, I don't know if he has a team anymore, but like,
as you're saying the word out of touch, somebody's commenting out of touch,
No one prepared this dude that was going to come up. The gambling stuff, we're not even going to talk about that today because I always felt that shouldn't have played a role in him not making the Hall of Fame. The other thing is a separate issue, right? And since he wants to bring up timeline, that was 55 years ago, babe. Pete, we're celebrating you from something you did 40 years ago, you moron. 42 years ago. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so that thing, we can't discuss that because that was such a long time ago, and maybe that was a mistake, blah, blah, blah. But we can celebrate something you did 42 years ago. You are so out of touch. You're a scumbag. And we're not even talking about him in the booth yet.
Well, we're going to get to the booth. We are going to get to that, too. But you said, how is he not prepared? He probably knew those questions were going to come. I personally believe that he's the type of person that doesn't care. And if me and you asked him on the set, he's kind of very similar to Lenny Dykstra in the sense where he has no filter. He doesn't care what he says. He doesn't care if he offends you. He doesn't care if, people stop talking to him or ask him. He just doesn't care. He says exactly what he wants.
Does he think he's untouchable?
I think he does too. Even though he's already been banned and everything.
Exactly, you idiot. Like, I feel that's what I get from him. I get like I'm untouchable. I'm gonna say whatever I want. I can be disrespectful. There's nothing you can do about it. Except he's not on the Phillies Wall of Fame. He's never getting into the MLB Hall of Fame.
Which is funny because I remember reading a report like about 2 or 3 months ago that Rob Manfred was gonna again hear his case and consider him. Then you hear what he does this weekend.
Exactly. So
he's done. Manfred's not going to touch him now.
He could have helped his case if you just addressed it like a normal human being. Said it was a huge mistake. You could have brought up it was 55. You could have said, listen, it was 55 years ago. I was younger. I made a huge mistake. I'm working on it. I apologize to her. I apologize to everybody. Whatever you want to say. This idiot calls a female reporter babe. Like, it's nuts.
Okay, so normally I'm not into character. It's because again, George, like before this weekend, I was on the fence whether Pete Rose should get into the Hall of Fame. But now seeing what his character is like as well, I mean, I just can't justify changing, character shouldn't play a part to an extent.
Can I bring up an interesting conversation? So just help me out here because I know the accusations were in 2016 or 2017, the statutory rape thing.
Yes.
Was that proven or was that an accusation?
I'm not, to be honest with you, I am not even sure.
Me neither. I'm not bringing that up.
I will answer the best way I know how.
Hold on.
He has never denied it.
Okay. I'm not bringing it up to defend him at all. I'm not saying that.
No, I know.
I'm just going to George's comment. Yeah. Let's just say it's an accusation to play devil's advocate here.
If it was an accusation and he wanted to, he could have said, no, that didn't happen.
Right.
He never said that.
I believe it happened.
He's basically admitted to it, but there's no,
I believe it
so.
happened.
And if it happened 55 years ago, there's definitely
all I'm
laws that
saying
you
is
can't be charged for it anymore.
it's an accusation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to George's comment, character, Hall of Fame, let's talk about a guy who just retired in another sport to kind of parallel it.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Roethlisberger was accused of rape 2 times, settled outside of court. Ben Roethlisberger's a Super Bowl winning champion.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Roethlisberger's most likely going to be a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
Are we not talking about the same thing?
Yeah.
One's an accusation of statutory rape. One's 2 accusations of rape in which he, I guess it's not admitted, but he settled outside of court and those things went away. What's, not that should really tell you anything, but it might a little bit.
Yeah. We're assuming, but yeah.
Right. He's going to make the Hall of Fame. So to George's point, it's not, it should be all an equal playing field, and it's not going to be. But I agree, Pete Rose shouldn't be in it, and the way he handles himself, it just makes it worse. But there's a dude, like, listen, yeah. I'm not going to get too deep into all the conspiracy theories, but like Ray Lewis was on the stand for murder.
Yep.
Ray Lewis is already in the Hall of Fame, is he not?
And he's one of the most beloved players in NFL history.
Yeah, like there's just no equal playing field here.
Look, he could have come out this weekend,
right.
and look. We can get into the booth talk. I mean, he came into the booth and said why the Phillies would give him a live mic on a TV booth.
You know how uncomfortable McCarthy had to have felt.
And what about Kruk? He flat out, and no offense, he told John Kruk, "I knew you when you had 2 balls."
Yeah.
And look, the thing that he went through with the reporters was before he was in the booth. The Phillies could have easily been like, "Ah, shit, this is not going to go well."
Yeah.
Let's axe that right now. You know what I mean? But they still put him up there.
I just want to clarify before someone sees what I just said and takes it the wrong way. I'm not advocating for Pete Rose. No. I'm not making it. I'm not saying I was just playing devil's advocate on why someone else with similar accusations will be in the Hall of Fame.
I'm not going to get into the Ben Roethlisberger part of it.
No. I'm not even.
No. But I got a specific point here. I don't know what Ben Roethlisberger does on a daily basis. But Ben Roethlisberger, after he did that, whether he was guilty or not,
right,
he kept his head down. He cleaned up his act. Right. Pete Rose, since he got banned from baseball, has continued to snowball and do more and more bad things. He has continued to, say negative things to people and do awful things. Like, he could have came out this weekend. He's trying to get into the Hall of Fame. He's trying to get his case heard again. He could have came out and said the right things. He could have worked on improving his image, because we all know fans will turn a blind eye for Hall of Fames, for those great moments at the end of people's lives and careers. He chose not to do that. He chose to double down and be more of an asshole than he was before, and to say more disparaging things than before, to talk down to a female reporter. This is not 1947. You can't. He probably should talk like that.
He might be so high or drunk. I don't know what he does, when he's home. But like, he's probably that's why he's so out of touch, dude. He still thinks it's 1982, and he can say whatever he wants to a female or a reporter or anything like that. But I know you probably want to move on soon. But I just want to bring up the conversation that George brought up, and I know you said in most cases, character shouldn't play a role in Hall of Fame inductions. And part of me agrees with you. Like, I feel like I've always felt that kind of way. Like, when it was just about the betting stuff, I thought it was BS that he wasn't allowed in.
Absolutely.
However, we're basically talking about the highest honor in Major League sports, right? The NFL Hall of Fame. It's the highest honor you can receive after your career is over, correct?
Correct.
So should your character not come into play? Like, just take Pete Rose as the example here. If you are, as what we're calling a scumbag, the way you treat people, just because you could hit a baseball better than almost anybody, like if we're talking about the highest honor in one of the best sports in the world, should you be allowed in if you think you're a higher than life scumbag asshole?
So here's my answer to that. It's the same reason why I would put Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame. Okay, Ben Roethlisberger, and stuff like that. What they do off the field. How can you go to a Hall of Fame?
Well, that's what I'm asking you.
Dylan, you're 25. Maybe 10 years from now, you'll have a little Dylan running around the house.
Right.
You want to take little Dylan to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And he says, Dad, who was the best hitter of all time in baseball. And you say Pete Rose. Well, why isn't he in here?
Right.
Being, whatever. Or who hit the most home runs in baseball history? Barry Bonds. Well, why isn't he in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. So I guess I'm not saying that I disagree. I guess I'm just throwing the question out there. Should it matter? Because I'm just thinking about it now.
You use that. Like it's kind of different, Barry Bonds to Pete Rose, because of
right. Well, one's like we said,
wrong.
one is
a
scumbag. One is
yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't, like, everybody always talks with the Barry Bonds of the world and the steroid people. Well, you put an asterisk next to your name. No, you don't have to put. People know. You put them in the Hall of Fame. You let their story be told by the people at the Hall of Fame to encourage people to do things the right way. You don't want to have this. Look, they did it the wrong way. Pete Rose was banned from baseball, but he was the all-time hits leader.
Right.
Okay. Don't cheat. Don't bet on baseball. But you have to at least have a wing or a spot for the best at every.
It's the Asterisk Hall. It's the Asterisk Hall. And I agree with George's.
You can't have the quote unquote asterisk. But you know what? If Pete Rose gets in the Hall of Fame, it's not going to be Pete Rose designing everything that's like in his little case and where it's busted. He's not going to be the one designing it. But you can clearly put a plaque that, a newspaper articles from his, transgressions and stuff like that. Let people know the whole story.
You want to know what I love about this conversation?
What?
About the Pete Rose conversation. We just spent, 15 minutes, and rightfully so. And we didn't even really talk about what his ass said in a broadcast booth. So you want to talk about the word out of touch.
Yeah.
Dude, you broke, just on air, cursing, being foul, just so out of touch with where he is, what's his environment around him. McCarthy had to be sitting there, and they're probably trying to laugh it off at some of the stuff he says, but in reality, they're sitting there like, is this dude effing serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Dumpster fire.
The Phillies,
absolute dumpster fire.
In my opinion, the Phillies made it into a dumpster fire this weekend.
Right.
They
it almost took away from a great weekend of baseball for the Phillies.
Again, like I said, alumni weekend. I've been to multiple of them. It is my favorite weekend. I was at the Charlie Manuel Wall of Fame game. I was at a bunch of them. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year. And they really screwed the pooch there by not reading the room on what Pete Rose would have done. After he made his first mistake, just cutting him free. Just be done.
100%. Cut his mic.
They got him out there changing the first base out in the middle of the game. He's already screwed up how many times, and they let him walk back out on the field again.
Yeah, dude. Imagine being anybody on the Phillies, but Derek Hall hit 2 home runs on Sunday. Imagine being Derek Hall. You're coming off a 2 home run performance. You head into the clubhouse after the game, celebrate. Pete Rose said what? You're just huh? He did what? Jesus.
All right, George is ready for this, and I got the best segment. From one Hall of Fame, borderline Hall of Fame baseball player, should be whatever, to a future Hall of Famer in Jalen Hurts.
Stir the pot, Phil.
Yeah, just stir it up a little bit, Future Hall of Famer. All right, George. Everybody watching this show knows George is a big supporter of us, and we greatly appreciate George always being a part of the shows and interacting. The great thing about George is he brings up interesting topics and interesting questions that want to be addressed. And he sent me a question the other day, Dylan. And, the question is, it was a great transition. One Hall of Famer to another. Absolutely. The question is, and I'm going to change it a little bit for conversation's sake a little bit here. Does the offensive line of the Eagles make Jalen Hurts look better? Just use last year, for example. Make him look better than he actually is, which it's borderline how good he is. Is he the 15th best quarterback in the league, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, whatever? Does the offensive line play a factor in making him look better? And I'm going to instantly, before you even respond, Dylan, say, I think you can ask a secondary question. Does Jalen Hurts make the offensive line look better because he's not taking sacks, because he gets off his first read, he feels pressure, he can take off? scramble for a first down. So I think if you're going to ask, does Jalen Hurts look better because of the offensive line, you could say the other side, because this offensive line is not much different than when Carson Wentz was here. You still got Kelsey, you still got Lane Johnson, you still got Sayamalu. Mailata is out there now, and Jack Driscoll or Glenn Dickerson's out there. But the offensive line is pretty similar. And that offensive line was trash in 19 and 20. Carson Wentz was running for his life all the time, taking hits nonstop. So does the offensive line make him look better, or does he make the offensive line look better?
So I don't want to assume, but what I'm assuming, George, is the reason behind the question is we see Hurts' flaws. We already know that he struggles. What would he be behind a worse offensive line? Because we're all sitting here talking about how they're most likely the best offensive line in football. If they're not, they're top 3, whatever, correct? So what would this kid who already struggles look like versus an average to mediocre offensive line? And here he is. In 2016, my main argument, Wentz was better than Dak because Dak had an obscene amount of time to pass. Turns out Dak was just good. It's an interesting question, and I want to almost say we don't have the answer to it, Phil, because I think you'll find out. You're not going to find. There's never going to be an answer to this question, right? Because if he comes out and balls out behind a great offensive line, the counter argument is just going to be, well, he's got a great offensive line in front of him, right? But I would say that no, they haven't made him look better yet because of all the deficiencies I've seen.
In Jalen Hurts.
Meaning if they haven't covered up anything for him as a passer at the moment. So if they were covering up, how much time he had, and don't get me wrong, he has a lot of time and he does bail on a clean pocket fairly early. But I think that proves the point that they're not they're giving him a clean pocket and it's showing one of his deficiencies when he bails on it too quickly, right? And I know it's about creating chaos. I know.
But see, the way I look at it is that everybody affects everybody. Okay, the offensive line being great can mask some of Jalen Hurts' deficiencies.
Right,
sure.
Jalen Hurts being
Jalen
able
Hurts
to move,
running can mask some of the offensive line deficiencies. Okay,
I agree.
Having a bad wide receiver core, having to have Jalen Reagor out there to throw to. Everyone talks about Jalen Hurts, one read, boom, take off. Right?
Sure.
Well, when you've got Jonathan Hightower and Jalen Reagor and Ortega-Whiteside as your second and third and fourth read, why wouldn't he just take off after the first read? Because either I'm going to scramble for a 12-yard gain, or I'm going to throw it to Jalen Reagor down the field and he's going to drop the ball, or he's not going to be in the spot. So you could say it that way. Now, adding A.J. Brown to the equation this year, improving the wide receiver core. Now, he should have that more confidence. So I think the entire team as a whole makes each other look better or look worse. So I don't think you could say the offensive line solely makes him look better because, Jordan Mailata has gotten better, obviously. But are you telling me early in the season last year, Jalen Hurts had 100% confidence at Jordan Mailata at left tackle?
No.
So
not
he has in his head a clock. Quarterbacks have in their head a clock. 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is.
I think his
clock
needs a little adjustment.
He counts his clock, and he's like, all right, this is all my offensive line in my mind is going to give me. I got to take off. If it doesn't give me time to get to my second or third read, well, that's unfortunate. I think as the year went on, and I hope this year he has now gained more confidence in that offensive line, that he doesn't have to take off out of those clean pockets. But I don't think that it's all on Jalen Hurts, being made to look better by the offensive line. I think it's a combination of it all.
He brings up a stellar point. If you're an offensive lineman, it might be a little more difficult because, George, of course you come with the hardest question of maybe the because
I think it's a fair question, but
but there is no answer to it at the moment. Because like I said, if I had to give an answer to what his original question was, does the O-line make him look better? As of right now, I'm going with no, because they haven't masked his deficiencies.
He's still got the same deficiencies.
Right. If they masked masked his deficiencies last season, I would say, well, sure, because, I've seen him do X, Y, and Z wrong, but a lot of times they were able to help him out with X, Y, and Z, right? This year, I think
Absolutely.
it's a stepping stone. You'll learn.
I think the answer to the question is, if you're going to say Jalen Hurts' deficiencies were masked, then you could say the wide receivers. If the offensive line made Hurts look better, the wide receivers made him look worse.
Right, sure.
So it almost like I'm not saying it cancels out because they're two totally different positions.
Right.
But every player on the field, look, I could transition. I could say on defense last year, we couldn't get a pass rush, right? Would you say last year Darius Slay and Steven Nelson had their best year ever?
Nah.
No. Because when you can't get a pass rush, your cornerbacks are out on an island.
Right. 100%.
If you get pressure on them, on the quarterback, then your cornerbacks are better. I think every position feeds off of every other position, and it's up to the team to help.
Well, you're right, because if your wide receivers can't create separation, your offensive line's trying to hold their block.
Greg Ward catches everything thrown to him, but Greg Ward doesn't get separation.
Right. If Jalen holds onto the ball too long, this is a read.
It took the one big play that he had to Greg Ward. Was it last year? I believe he had a big pass.
2 years ago. He came to the Green Bay game.
But it happened because of Jalen Hurts creating the extra mobile time.
Rolling out, yeah.
Greg Ward wasn't open on the initial read. Greg Ward got open because Hurts extended the play with his legs. So, again, if you can't get separation, if you can't catch the ball, we talk about, go back to Jonathan Hightower's rookie year. How many times did he drop deep balls that fell right into his pocket? I think there's something to be said about everybody masking each other's deficiencies, but also making yourself look better. So that's why there is no set answer to this, in my opinion.
No, there's no way, because there's no definitive proof either way or another. And not to mention, it's only been a season, right, with a lack of help. So you can't sit here and definitively say, well, yeah, they masked this, they helped him with this. You also can't say, no, like I'll lean no for the time being, but I'm not going to tell you that they're already, not helping him.
And I want to address something else, because I start to get back and forth with my man DJ Eastwood yesterday, and there's a group of people like George. George is not sold on Jalen Hurts, but he knows and accepts the fact that 2022 is Jalen Hurts' year. Whether we like it or not, he's the guy. Look, Gardner Minshew is not taking over the reins unless something catastrophic happens. And if it does, we ain't making the playoffs with Gardner Minshew as our starting quarterback. It's just not going to happen. But there's a group of fans that are already, I don't care, just cut him, just get rid of him. And he's one of them. And he has a great podcast and he does good work. But there's a group of fans that are so blinded that they just don't want to see Hurts get better. They don't think he can get better. Look, he's had, you talked about it a week or two ago. You got to stack good practices, right? Jalen Hurts, we want to see him improving in practice. But he's practiced against, we've talked about, top 10, top 5 defense.
Right. Don't
you think that's going to make him better when week 1 we're going up against Detroit, who's got a bottom 5 defense? Isn't he going to be better because of what he's doing
him better, in practice?
Yeah. So I want to call out the people that are so against Jalen Hurts being the quarterback that they don't even care about waiting till the season starts to see if he's gotten better. No, he's done. He had a bad day in practice. He was 8 of 13 in a 7-on-7 drill. So he sucks. He hasn't improved. Let's move on right now.
You also have to take into account that at this point of the year, defenses are ahead of the offense. It's the way it's been for the entirety of football. Like in August, the defense is going to look better than the offense. The offense is going to have their moments, and then they'll find their stride. Hopefully, I'm just confused. Like I saw you guys commenting back and forth, and it's always a fun conversation, right? But there is me. I'm not a Jalen Hurts, let's say, believer, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not Jalen Hurts stan, but I wouldn't call myself a Jalen Hurts hater. So I'm not going to come out and say at the open practice, he is what he is. He's not going to take a major leap. We don't know that for sure, right? Now, you can have your belief that you don't think he will 100%, but to declare it, I don't know. I'm just also I'm confused because John McMullen, who, has his ups and downs with his, some of the things he says. But I saw a clip from Jacob Media that he was talking about Hurts after the open practice and said he looked incredible.
Yeah.
So I know, I'm confused. So, I got some people are saying how. So what did they watch at the open practice that made them think that? Because if one guy's saying he looked incredible, did he look horrible to you? Did he just look like he did last year? I don't know I don't know how he looked. I wasn't there, but McMullen said he looked awesome. So I don't know.
Yeah, I just think people need to realize we can get hyped up about practice. We want to talk football every day. You know what I mean? We got to dissect what happens in practice every day. But until it's in a meaningful game, hell, Friday, first preseason game, if he plays or not.
One possession, maybe 3 and out.
Possession, whatever. I don't care. Oh, he goes 3 and out on Friday, and then they pull him from the game. Oh, my God. Monday morning on this, the overreactions that we're going to be feeding from.
Yeah.
Hurts is terrible, blah, blah. No, guys, until it's a meaningful
game. The evaluation starts week 1. I said that before camp started. Listen, obviously we would love to see more ups than downs, more positives than negatives in camp. And yes, it would be a welcome sight if he could stack positive days. But all that's mush to me, dude. The day he throws no touchdowns and 3 interceptions, the day he throws 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions and only 2 incompletions, it means nothing. Now, you do have to take into account and assume, Phil, like you said, that playing against this defense that we have such high expectations for, how talented they seem, it should make him better day in and day out, right? Because going against that, guess what? When you get to the Lions defense week 1, things should be a little easier for you than they were all summer, right? So it'll help, but it means nothing until we see it week 1, week 2, week 3. That is not to say if Jalen Hurts balls out week 1, we're going to sit here and say, this is it. He's here. He's improved. If he struggles week 1, we can't sit here and say, told you so. He sucks. But I think after 2 months of football, you'll have a very good idea of what Jalen Hurts is. Now, I know that might only mean 7 or 8 games, but you'll know at that point of the year what you're getting.
The first half of the schedule is fairly manageable for the Eagles. We'll know by week 6. We'll know if Jalen Hurts is going to, I still stand by this. If Jalen Hurts shows 0 improvement this year, he is exactly 100% the same quarterback he was last year. This team's still winning the division. This team has improved on defense, and this team's proved overall that even if he stays exactly the same, it's still a playoff team. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But we'll know by week 6 whether we should start breaking down footage of college quarterbacks and stuff like that, whether he's the guy of the future or not.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just think people get too high and too low too quickly on practice, on training camp, they are not even tackling to the ground. You know what I mean?
Can I ask you a question?
Everybody freaked out about him juking Brandon Graham out of his shoes the other day at practice.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon Graham's not allowed to touch him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, of course Brady's going to juke Brandon Graham out of his shoes.
If we do want to give props, the touchdown pass to A.J. Brown was a phenomenal throw.
Phenomenal throw.
I think something that goes unseen.
I saw, was it Bleeding Green Nation saying that he throws too much to A.J. Brown? We might not see Jalen Hurts going to his second read often, or as often as we'd like.
Dude, that safety, I don't know who the safety was on the play. The safety was
draped.
Was right here. Bradbury was draped on his back shoulder, but then the safety was coming, he put it low in a basket. And if he can make those types of throws, I don't care about the muscle he puts on the football and how hard he can throw. If he can make those kinds of throws, again, one throw. And I saw his statement up here about the tape and that he sees there's negatives and positives on the tape. That's the same thing I've been seeing, even from reporters just in camp, 1 play, 2 plays in a row, he hits Goddard and then Brown for, streaking over the middle, tight coverage. And then, he throws into double coverage the next play. So it's the inconsistency that he has to wean out, right? Let me ask you a question. We're sitting here, we're talking about Hurts stands, Hurts haters in training camp. He's polarizing for sure. Maybe it's not even so much him. Maybe just the situation is so polarizing, right? Is the situation now with Jalen Hurts more or less polarizing to you than towards the end of Carson Wentz. I'm not talking about 2020. 2020, we all agree. We saw that cliff. We saw what happened. 2019, Phil, when he was very, very good and led them to a division title, I argued week in and week out with friends of mine, family, people on social media that already thought he sucks already because you had the Nick Foles stigma. You saw he wasn't the MVP anymore, right? Pennsylvania, dude, like this, that time was so polarizing. He was so polarizing. I almost feel like this gets talked about more than Carson Wentz did when he was here.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, see, the difference between the two is that Jalen Hurts, we still
Sam
don't
Bradford.
know. Yeah, Jalen Hurts is going to his second year as a starter. Jalen Hurts has never, performed to a Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate in 2017.
That was his second year, though.
Yeah, it was his second year. I know. But then he played well in 18, in 19, put a bunch of practice squatters on his back, carried them to
people
the playoffs.
at that time tried to tell you that because the numbers were going down little by little each year, they tried to tell you he sucks already. And to me, that was such a polarizing time because I'm like, yo, are you watching the same 2020? Forget that. Like we all witnessed what happened in 2020. But pre that, he was so polarizing because you had about 55% of the fan base that supported him still and thought he can be the guy. And you had already 45% wanting him out of town before 2020 even hit. Hurts might even be more 50-50 at this point.
Yeah.
Would you say there's more haters or supporters?
I think it's pretty down the middle.
I know.
The haters, well, first off, me and George had a side conversation before. We hate the term. We both hate the term haters. Haters is such an overused word.
What would you like it then?
I don't know what to call it, but there's a lot more vocal anti-Hurts people than they are pro. The pro people just say we're saving the receipts. That's all they say. The haters
I see it differently.
Really?
Because I see, like, even last year, right, when he was up and down, he would make one nice throw, and I'll give credit where credit's due. It's a nice throw. People would clip it. People would put it on Twitter.
Doubters.
And this is what they say. My QB1. Right? Like it's a dig at the people that haven't seen enough yet, or the doubters, right? Like, come on, man. Let's not clip the one throw out of 30 and say my QB1. The same way, you see the doubters.
I would almost say that, Hurts is different because of he hasn't gotten to the peak yet of what, he could be, or he never, like Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate. I would say Carson Wentz versus, you're a little too young to remember, but when Randall Cunningham was here he started to, he snowballed down, and there was a lot of beefs. He was washed up. He was a bum. He was benched for Rodney MVP, who's more famous because his wife is Holly Robinson, than as a football player. Okay. That situation might be more comparable to the now there was no social media back then in the mid 90s, but and Randall ended up going on to having an MVP season with the Minnesota Vikings a few years later with rookie Randy Moss and stuff like that. I think it's the Carson Wentz was more polarizing because of how high he had gotten and how quickly he had fallen. So Carson Wentz went like straight up and then straight down. Hurts has just been the same the whole time. His 4 games his rookie year. I mean, he didn't do anything better or worse than he did last year. Last year, did he take a step forward? Maybe a smidge as a leader, but Hall of Fame with a backup. Yeah, exactly. Look, I remember I had Carson Wentz the number 4 quarterback in the league going into 2020. That's how high I was on Carson Wentz. And then by the end of the season, I said, get that guy out of my city.
Yeah.
Like that. You know what I mean? But again, I was willing to admit that mistake.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz would be more comparable to Ben Simmons, and Jalen Hurts would be more comparable to Markelle Fultz, in my opinion.
All right.
Because they haven't done it. They have the talent. They haven't really reached where they got to go. Ben Simmons, 2-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, you know what I mean? Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Carson Wentz, MVP candidate. So I think there's a little difference there because of where their careers have gone. And it's great to see Carson Wentz struggling in Washington camp. I don't care what happens in Eagles camp. But Carson Wentz, what happens in practice in Washington, it matters.
Okay, before we wrap this up.
Yeah, we got
George, I'm just joking with you because it's training camp. I know how you love your training camp videos. Your Danny Dimes prediction ain't looking so hot at the moment. I don't know if you, Phil. I don't know if you've seen some of the.
Well, I shared the one video of him missing that pass that was just god awful.
Yeah, it happened like yesterday or 2 days ago. He missed by 100 feet on an out route.
Yes,
It's
absolutely
awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just
I
kidding,
shared that
George,
video.
but-
It's pretty awful. There's nothing good about it. Look, I'm high on the Giants this year, higher than most, because I think the front office and coaching changes will improve that franchise, but it's going to take time. And Danny Dimes is not 100% not the answer. Let it play out. Yeah, let it play out. Yeah, he almost wants Danny Dimes to do. I think George wants to see Danny Dimes have a better season than Jalen Hurts, and that's where we'll end the show with that hater kind of a comment right there. Anyway, we're gonna wrap it up for the day. Another great training in the AM. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're watching on replay, again, make sure you hit the like and the subscribe button, retweet, share, follow on whatever platform you are watching. We greatly appreciate it. Jason will be back tomorrow. Cole, Dylan, I think you're back on Thursday. Friday, we got Chris Franklin giving us a report right before the first preseason game here on Training the AM. Got lots happening, so make sure, like I said, you like, you subscribe, and all that great stuff. Everybody have a great day. Thank you, Dylan. I am Phil Stifle, yo. Till tomorrow. Fairway to Heaven, 9 p.m. tonight. Pregame show, 6:30. What else? We got Faithfuls today or no? No Faithfuls today.
Tomorrow, Connor Thomas from 97.5 The Fanatic will be back on.
Gotcha. Got to plug all the shows. Be live tonight, 9 p.m. with Fairway to Heaven, guys. Yo. Go Birds.
See ya.